Om Asatu Ma Sadgamaya Tamasu Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurmam Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness of ignorance to light of knowledge, and from death of being limited to immortality that is unlimited. Om, peace, peace, peace. As you see today's topic mentioned on the screens, the three divisions of what we perceive and how we look at them, I, we, and they. It is interesting to think a bit about this. In Vedanta, we look at what the sages of all nations, of all times, have presented us as the truth and therefore the goal to be reached, that is, the oneness of all existence. It is asserted that all is in one without second self. The one self, one divine being, is present in everything. This truth of oneness is the cornerstone of the philosophy given by the sages, that yes, in essence, everything is actually one. And it is the ignorance of that oneness that makes us see different things. Our perception has multiplicity. The truth is against this multiplicity and wants us to see the one. Now, as we see many, the seeing many itself automatically means that they have categories, they have names. Every thing, multiplicity means that we see A, B, C, whatever. So they automatically have names. Maybe formally we didn't Christian them, we didn't give names to them, but that fact of our perception that we see many means that we identify them different from each other, and that identification gets formalized by attaching names to them. This is this, this is that, that is that. Thus we have different categories, different groups, some close to us, some farther away from us. Some we have more intimate understanding of, some not much understanding of. Yet all of that is part of our perception. If we look at it as our perception, it still is one. This is my perception. It is a singular thing, I need not say they are my perceptions. This whole universe is my perception. There it is all singular, one. When we divide it, when we look at the the individual contents of this singularity, we see the plurality. And in this plurality now, there is the time and space making all types of infinitely many and continuously changing divisions. The I, that is the fulcrum, let us say, of all this perception. I am seeing this universe. And then this I itself, as we see, is shifting continuously. I mean, our perception of I is shifting continuously. In many Vedanta texts, you will find that how this I gets identified with so many different things. Like sometimes the outermost understanding of this I is a person identifies with external things, external to the body. Like a person gets identified with his, her or her progeny, my son. So the son is perceived as if it is I. Something, if the son is happy, parents are probably happier. It is, I know instance when the son became, graduated with high flying colors. The son was of course happy, but happier and jubilant were the parents. They were throwing parties and telling it on phone to everybody that, hey, you know what happened? And then like that. So they identify themselves with something even outside the body. That is, as if something happens, bad happens to son, it is as it were it's happening to me. It is the idea of I there is so outside. You see I manifested as as one's children, one's things associated with the children and so forth. Then this shifts to the body. I and my body, they become identical. So that is another idea that we are always centered on for the most of the time during our waking state at least. In the waking state, we identify ourselves with the body. I went to Vedanta Society. Body went there, no doubt, but did I go? Another question, I went to Vedanta Society. I had a big meals today. Means the food was put in the body, but I don't say that a lot of food has gone into my body. I had a big meals. So I gets identified with body. That yes, I got, while walking, I fell and got hit, I was hurt. Now the body is hurt, but I say I am hurt. So this is one identification. I am same as body. Now I am not same as my son or somebody. The son's body is not hurt. Son has not taken a big meals. The son has not come to Vedanta Society, and yet I say I have come to Vedanta Society. There I is now not identified with my progeny, it is identified with body. Then next it is said that I gets identified with the sensory and motor organs and the various powers that belong to the body, like the vision. It is the I cannot see properly, means there is some defect in the eye. So that is being indicated that, or some other power is not functioning well. That is, now the eye is connected not just with the external part, but some function that is going on through it. So the connection or identification is with body is shifted to what in Sanskrit the Vedanta calls as prana, that sheath, that aspect of eye where it is identified with various powers through which function through the body. Then there is the identification with mind, very commonly seen, that I am very happy today. It is the identification is not with the body, but with a mental state. I am this mind. I am sad today. That fellow said something to me very nasty, and I am hurt. Now that hurt is not anything physical. You can't find a wound on the body, but hurt there refers that I am identifying with mind. Then there is the identification with the intellect. I identify what I understand. This is now who is understanding? The intellect is understanding that yes, I got the solution of this very difficult math problem. Now intellect got it. I identify myself with the intellect there. So all these are different identification with this self. It is said that further this I gets identified with the state of deep sleep and becomes identified with the bliss that one gets there. So identifying with the bliss sheath. And although we are not always aware of the complexities, yet we see these different states are of I with which we identify are real. At one school, I said, yes, you can take your body off, just as you can unbutton your jacket and put it on the hanger. So you can actually unbutton your body and put it on the hanger. And no, we cannot do that. No, you can do that. You do it, in fact, every day. Do you just think, when do you do it? And one bright kid said, when we sleep. Exactly. When we sleep or even when we dream. We have unbuttoned this body. That body is lying on the bed. And we are somewhere, maybe on Mars. So it is fine, you see, because we are identified at that time, not with our physical existence, but with another subtle body, which according to the Vedanta, a very beautiful analysis. I am not going into the depth of it in this lecture, but these 5 sheets are actually classified into 3 sets. One is the gross body, one is the subtle, the next is the subtle body, and the subtle body has these 3 of the sheets combined, like the energy sheath, the mental sheath, and the intellectual sheath. All these 3 are combined into what is called subtle body. So when we are seeing the dream, these 3 sheaths of the subtle body, and of course the causal body, that is the next sheath, that when we are not even aware of the dream, we are fast asleep. These subtle body and causal body, they are functional. Gross body is just unbuttoned and kept aside. When we are active physically, then all the 3 bodies, all the 5 sheets they are functional. We are identifying with all of them. But it is when we are in deep sleep, we are identified neither with the gross body nor with the subtle body. Both are kind of unbuttoned, and we are only with the causal body, which has no specifications to describe, because all our descriptions begin at the mental level, that we can separately identify things and so forth. So, that description of the separation is not available about the causal state, although there is still distinction there, non-specific distinction is still there. That is why when we wake up from the deep sleep, we come back into the same gross body. It never happens, friends, unless maybe some very freak things reported. There are some freaks things reported actually, that somebody went to bed as A, slept nicely, and woke up as somebody else. Normally it wouldn't happen, It is a very freak incident that woke up as somebody else. It is, yeah. Otherwise you will be always scared of going to bed if that is going to happen. That possibility is there. But we have been provided with good locks and keys, it seems. Therefore, when we unbutton this gross body, we keep it securely locked, it seems, so that when we wake up, it is available to us. Somebody else doesn't go away with it. So, it is important to say that arrangement is there. But it has been reported, like you kept your jacket somewhere, and then somebody else walked with it by mistake. It is because all these blue, black, dark jackets look alike. So while walking, yours was taken and that fellow's was kept. So now it is very cold, your jacket is not there, but you need something to put on. So whatever is left, that you put on and walk. So it is like that, you wake up. Somebody else's body is you use, and that your body is taken by somebody else. So, but they are kind of very freak, rare incidents, but it does happen. This indicates, that happening also is a good indicator. As the rare incidents actually are more important for getting a glimpse of the truth. The rare incidents. Some of the very rare incidents, they proved a big breakthrough in science, like the first idea of the atomic structure that Rutherford got was from certain very freak things. He had told somebody, one of his research assistants, that measure, the distraction or diffraction that the aluminium or gold foil, I forgot, was being bombarded with heavy protons, and then they are supposed to almost all pass through, because it was a thin gold foil, very thin, and so almost all were supposed to pass through, and almost all were passing through with some of them showing a little bit deviation from the path and so forth. Most of them were passing straight through, and a few were getting having some deviation, but very, very few, they were just getting thrown back. Very freak incident, they were getting thrown back. It was analogous to, suppose you have a simple paper sheet. If a paper sheet and a cannonball is fired at it, and that paper throws the cannonball back, can you imagine that? So, that was what made Rutherford think that there is something very positively charged kernel and this very massive kernel inside there somewhere, and that gave rise to this his first model of atom, that the positive charge in the center which has all the mass of it, and then the negative charge circulating around it, and so forth. So what I mean is, these freak incidents that somebody in, say, billions of human beings, one may record sometimes one or two such cases, but they are important windows. One should not just brush them aside. Oh, they were probably just, not important. They were more. They are most important to understand how it happens. So that is what gives us idea that how differently we identify with I. This is I. Now, I has this huge experience of various things, infinitely many things, and each experience is kind of registered and stored like a huge, huge library. And this library of all our microprocessed impressions of all experiences, everything that I hear, everything that I see, everything I do, everything that happens in my presence, either to me or to somebody else, gets recorded and stored. And storing means you put a tag to it. And not just one tag. Those of you who are familiar with how things are kept in a library, first there is a main category, then subcategory, then subcategory. Like that it goes on up to say 10 decimals, 12 decimals, it goes on. So I put the tag like that to experiences, store them, and thus make different categories. You draw these lines, compartments, and then they are called schemas or schemata. It is the categorizations by tagging. And then they come back. Books are in a library. The books are not meant just to be stored, but to be taken for reading. Those who want to use the books, they need to get the required book quickly. So this required book is you get it very quickly if the tagging is done properly. And thus, written by this author, comes quickly. What is the title? This is the title. It comes out quickly. So, how nicely the books are kept and tagged, that increases the ease with which it can be retrieved. So also is with our memory, that when we need to refer to some experience, it is taken out, sometimes consciously, most of the times unconsciously, it comes out. Like I see something. Now, every new book that comes in the library, the librarian doesn't make a new category for it, otherwise it is, millions of categories. I want to keep it in an existing category, separately, but in the existing category. So which category the new experience is going to go, our system starts working on it, and then identifies the right category. It requires recalling. And the ease of recalling depends on what is the prominent tag that we have associated with it. And there, actually, the problem begins of this association of we and they. A group that in certain context I identified that I belong to gets categorized as we. The memories come back, yes, we together. The different countries which were aligned against Germany, Italy, and Japan in the Second World War. They called themselves Allied Forces. So these Allied Forces, they were different countries, but they became we. And then not only the countries, the citizens of all those countries, they said we are fighting against them. It became now not I, but we fighting against those, and we get all the good qualities, our forces, they are brave. Their forces, they are barbarous. They are barbarians. Ours are well disciplined, morally good. Those forces, theirs, they commit all sorts of atrocities on population. We good, they bad. The categorization happens like that. But then, just see these allied forces themselves. The war is over, now the alignment has become different. United States now is no more allied with Russia. Now we and they, that changed the context completely. It is a different context now. The alliance has changed. So we become different in different contexts. And thus, this is a very dynamic process. The tags sometimes continue to remain, but the content of the tag has changed by that time. The tags, because it is the names and the association with the names that takes time to change, whereas the content changes more quickly. Suppose I have, say, a bowl of soup, very delicious, nice, I tag it. Suppose not just mentally, I put a label on it, delicious soup, and then stick it in the refrigerator, and then a couple of months roll on. Imagine. The tag remains the same, delicious soup. I don't need to elaborate. So the contents change. It is like that the tag remained of the categorization that we had made, but the content changes. So this is an important aspect of how the situations change, the contents change, the kind of tag remains, and sometimes that tag, in spite of our efforts to keep it down, comes out. Let me tell you an incident. I was traveling, I think it was from Atlanta to Providence, and a funny thing happened. Somewhere that flight was getting delayed because the door had some problems of locking. It was an American Airlines flight, and then the captain came to announce that I am sorry to report that it will get delayed a little bit. This is happening. And then he said, and restricted himself. Quickly he stopped and said, at American Airlines, we are, the passenger safety is the first priority. Obviously, those who heard knew that he was earlier employed at Delta. And therefore, while he was telling, that thing came up, and so, but he quickly suppressed before he could even say Delta completely. He realized that he may, if he says like that, he will get fired from American Airlines also. So it is. So what I mean is the tags, although the things have changed, the habitual tags still continue. So we at Delta, no, we at American. So it is, that is how we keep on shifting. And they also correspondingly, they become different. There are inner divisions associated with this too. That we, a family, yes, but then my husband's side of the family, they, and my side of the family, that is another dynamics, It is, there is I and that we and they get divided like that too. That yes, we are a family, but it is different with them, different with us. Oh, those Harrisons, they have different customs, We Smiths are different. So it is like that, we is not the same all the time. We stand together means who stands together, we don't know really. Who stands together when it is said we stand together? If we say that we Rhode Islanders stand together, do we? No, see how many quarrels and disputes and all that is going on to keep the courts and all getting their jobs. So it keeps on, that there is division in that. But then when it is against somebody else, we unite, they and we. In our Rhode Island, so it becomes different. Those Massachusetts, it is different with them. So it is. But then when we identify with our country, yes, we Americans, we stand with values. Those other, they have no values, no morals. It is immediately categorized like that. That at that time we overlook what all the immoral things we do inside. It is, but we project that we against all the evil, we stand up against all the wrong that the others are doing, and so forth. Suppose we happen to meet somebody on Mars, or some other planet where there are human beings, we find human beings there, then we will say, we on earth, we are different, we do things in the right way. So it is like that we feel a distance between we and they. A distance is there. And then this distance, I and we, there is a distance. We and they, again there is a distance. There are again two different forces. What Swami Vivekananda in this context says, that there are the centrifugal forces, centripetal forces. And the forces that are pushing the differences further. And those forces which are trying to see that unifying forces, bringing them together. The centripetal, bringing it together. Centrifugal, it is that which makes the distance more and more. So it is these two forces, they are acting in this context also. When we criticize they, there is other thing also. No, we show some extra concessions to they. There is that movement also in us. No, they do not know. We should show extra considerations to them. They have to be assimilated. They have to be included. They are ours. We should broaden our horizons to include them. That is a beautiful idea, friends, that we have, as we. That let us share, the idea of share. Let us share. It is not just mine, share. Then share with they. And that is a beautiful thing. Not only it is they always pushing, but with they, the other force is also active. That let us share to include them. So one tries to go an extra step to feel that sense of oneness. When it is, we try to share, to include this oneness that is actually the basis of everything, the immutable oneness of everything, that is making its presence. When we push away, it is the ignorance that is working at it. So, I actually wanted to quote from a very well-known psychologist who worked on these categorizations, Bartlett. Bartlett has a lot of work on how these schematas get made, how the tagging happens, how the prominent tagging, that actually makes the thing come first. Like when I see somebody, then there is the color of the skin, there is the way of speaking, there is the quality of the voice, sweet voice or not so sweet voice, how my encounter with that person was it pleasant or unpleasant? They get tagged, but what tag is more prominent? That determines the behavior, because that is what will come out. When I see another person, if the color of the skin is a prominent tag, then that tag will come up. And then everything associated with that tag will get inadvertently, without any conscious effort, associated with that. And therefore we make sweeping generalizations that, oh well, they are all like this. Because it is now a schema. And then that group, everything that is connected to one of the members get applied to that. Oh, these Swamis, okay, you saw it, it is with one Swami was a little stupid, so you met me that time, but then you generalize, that all Swamis, so it is, one makes such, because that is the tag that comes forward. You do not see that this particular one, because he spoke like this, because he was rather a bit arrogant, so that tag does not necessarily come first. If that comes first, it would be different. But Swami, that tag comes first. And then that gets into the group, gets applied and colored with that tag. So, and all that goes with that tag. So, it's a wonderful study. That is how we get into so many unfounded prejudices which have no bearing except this kind of wrong tagging. So, when this happens, that one goes sometimes an extra length, because of this force of oneness, to feel oneness with the universe. That it is they, but, well, I and we, they. Actually, we are all one together. Let us feel oneness. it first thing it does is to remove the anger. When we good, they bad, the anger wells up. It is my political party, then those, immediately it becomes those. So they are all bad, they do all sorts of bad things, and they are so unreasonable. It is how people are stupid to elect them and so forth, So it becomes, we get into that very easily. But then the other force is there to assimilate, to bring it back, and one goes a little extra length. Holy Mother's, one incident in Holy Mother's life is very illustrative, that she was making those betel rolls. In India, at many places, especially at the time of Holy Mother, it was more prominent that people would, especially after meals, they would eat a betel roll. And usually it is a nice special leaf and green leaf with some that betel nut, some other things into it to make the mouth becomes red. It had a nice fragrance to it, and it is just a mouth freshener, as it were, and supposedly helping digestion. I don't know, but it is supposed to help digestion. So she was preparing them for people, and in some she was putting some extra spices. And one of the devotees there asked, Mother, why are you making these different? These are the ones, ordinary ones, and these are with some special spices. She said, these all regular ones are for those who are our regular people, regular devotees here. And these spices, it is for those who don't come here often, they are not ours as such. I am putting these better things there to make them ours, so that they will become ours. So this is the idea, to expand, to include, rather than to exclude, to include, to integrate, to take in. That removes this gap, and one starts feeling more and more sense of this oneness, which is actually the goal of Vedanta, to go to that reality. The goal of the saints is, yes, in spite of the apparent differences, to learn to see the internal oneness. And the whole idea is that the intrinsic internal oneness is to be perceived more and more. We do perceive a little bit. I mean, like for all the different parts of the body, we perceive oneness, left hand and right hand. We see from left hand and the right hand, the vision that we get of an object is one. No left hand showed me that this is this, and right hand showed me, unless there is a defect. But otherwise, both the eyes, the seer is the same. From both the ears, the hearer is the same. So we perceive that unity as one physical entity, the I. In case of we have a common group criterion that becomes, the platform on which we keep all these different things as one. We perceive a sense of oneness there. Then we expand this, and it requires really a saintly character. And conversely, if we want to develop a saintly character, then we should strive at that, to, by various ways, to include those who are not mine into first into we, and then the same I reflected differently in different places. It is the I alone. Like when you go to a mirror house, many of you must have gone, so many mirrors are kept. And some of them guarantee that you cannot help laughing. If you do not laugh, the money is given back twice as much you paid. It is, and the other caption sometimes is, the money will be given back if you are not scared. Because the mirrors are made in such a way that as you enter, your reflections, but they are seen oblique. It is all the mirror. So wow, who is this? And you feel either a lot of amusement or get scared. Oh, do I really look like this? Already I know I look not so good, but this is horrible. So it is all this because of these different, but they are really my images. They are me. They are me. So actually one sees in everything in the universe, in everything, the image of the self. I am manifesting as all this, like Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that remember, I am the self in everything that you see. In all these beings, I am the self. So, the self here, self there, self everywhere. Self in a bed bug or self in some thing in on the Mars. The same one Lord is the self in everything. So this oneness is to be perceived by transcending these limitations. And therefore the spiritual practice really, one aspect at least of it is to serve others, to love others. Like Jesus said that love thy neighbor as thyself. As thyself, just as you love this, you love your neighbor. And neighbor is can be extended, not just limited to next door neighbor, but I mean, so it can extend to the whole world. Yes, the whole world becomes one existence. As the Upanishads say, that it becomes like one little home. It is eka need, means need is actually the little bird house, that it is called need. So that is how it is so small, the whole universe becomes so close. I am this whole universe. That is how one comes to that, and that Swami Vivekananda declares as our true nature. Let me quote from his lecture on real and apparent nature of man. The apparent nature means what appears as I am. This 150 or 200 pounds or whatever it is, weighing the heap of flesh and blood and all that, that is an apparent being. But actually it is one without a second, that being. It is, that is how one sees these different things coming up, that this is first important thing, that I am so and so, apparent, or as I earlier explained, the different sheets. But this is all the apparent nature. real nature that he mentions, that he requests not to get frightened. Not to get frightened by this penetrative transcendental thought. Don't get frightened. People are frightened when they are told that they are universal being, everywhere present. Through everything actually you work. Through every foot you move. Through every lip you talk. Through every heart you feel. People are frightened when they are told this. They will again and again ask you if they are not going to keep their individuality. What is going to be happening to their individuality? What is individuality? I should like to see it. A baby has no mustache. When that he grows into a boy, a man, perhaps he has a mustache and a beard. Is his individuality would be lost if it were in the body? If I lose one eye or if I lose one of my hands, my individuality would be lost if it were in the body. Then a drunkard should not give up drinking because he would lose his individuality. A thief should not be a good man because he would leave thereby, he would thereby lose his individuality. No man ought to change his habits or for fear of this loss of individuality. There is no individuality except in the infinite. What an important idea. There is no individuality, friends, except in the infinite. All finiteness is subject to continuous shift. And so there is no individuality. I am so and so, I am like this and like this. Next moment it shifts. I am not that. So therefore, where is the true individuality? So, Swami Vivekananda further continues, there is no individuality except in the infinite. That is the only condition which does not change. Everything else is in a constant state of flux. Neither can individuality be in memory. Suppose on account of a blow on the head I forgot all about my past, then I have lost all individuality. I am gone. I do not remember 2 or 3 years of my childhood. And if memory and existence are one, then whatever I forgot is gone. That part of my life which I do not remember, I did not live. So the corollary is we did not live as 1 year or 2 year or 3 year old children because we don't remember that. That is not in the memory. So, but that is not the case. We all know that I cannot be 10 years old unless I was 1 year old. So we did live then. That is a very narrow idea of individuality. We are not individuals yet. We all want to be individuals. And becoming individuals therefore mean stepping outside this boundary of I, we and they. These boundary lines that we have drawn. And we should reverse the process of, instead of pushing aside, pushing away, let us try to bring all these things in I. There are these two ways, either merge all that in I or expand I to include all these as I. So, this is the whole idea in trying to study this topic, I, we and they. Thank you, friends.